everyone here. Hopefully we'll be able to go around and at least, I'm really good with faces, but I'm not really good with names. So I recognize most of you, but the names I'm not sure. So maybe we can do that first. Is that okay with you? Absolutely. Okay. I'm Newell Cleaver. Honestly, I forgot that I was chair. But I'm pleased to be here and very grateful for the opportunity to work with each one of you in the environment. Start to my left. I'm John Ballard.
Stephanie Barnes. Megan Robbins. Marita Farinas.
Mike Hartley.
Gina White.
Pamela Nota.
Colleen Wade.
Rose Calamari.
And Crystal Rideau.
Brian Hawkins.
Susan Ramos. Jasmine Roberts.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate again each one of you being here. The purpose of this meeting is to receive the budget message and to receive comments from the public on the budget. It's a public meeting, so anyone in the audience that has something that they want to share with us, you're certainly welcome to do that. Having said that, I am going to turn the rest of the time over to Ryan and Crystal and let them talk about this budget that's in front of you.
Oh, yes. So we need to, you need to, we need to.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry.
sorry, no, it's this right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I would accept the motion to adopt the agenda as shown to you, if someone would like to.
So moved.
Pat, for a second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the agenda as presented to you. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, with that, then I'll go back to Ryan Crystal.
So we actually have to go through and elect officers. So we have to run an election of officers. And then, yeah. Then I'm in, yeah.
Wow. Okay, I didn't get to visit with Dave before this meeting, but I will certainly do.
Yeah, we should have to.
Okay, so we need to elect a chairman and a vice chairman for this process. So the floor is open for election for the chair.
I would like to nominate Newell Cleaver as the chair.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded that we nominate Newell Cleaver as the chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Record that.
It's on screen.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll accept a motion to nominate a vice chair.
I'll nominate Dave Bunker.
I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded that Dave Bunker be vice chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, be? Thank you. We have a chair and a vice chair. Perfect. Now can I turn it back over to you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Cleaver. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. So what we're going to do, we're going to open up our budget with the superintendent's budget message. And the message that I've prepared for everybody today, it really does outline our whole budget process, along with some other both local, state, and federal level things. And so you'll see that should be the first thing on there. Actually,
It's right after our budget
page
calendar.
3. Yeah, right after the calendar. So page 3 is what we do. You as students can follow along with me or just enjoy the student sound. This is one of the longest budget messages I've ever presented, but again, it's only a second. So anyway, here we go. So dear Nissa School District community, I am pleased to present the 2025-26 proposed school budget as required by Oregon Oregon budget law, this budget is balanced with the estimated expenditures and revenues. As we review the budget, you will see significant resources designated to support and enhance our commitment to excellence in education. This year's proposed budget reflects our ongoing commitment to strengthening our educational community through strategic investment and support. While the broader economic and political landscape remains uncertain, this budget prioritizes key improvements that will directly enhance and impact services for our students and families. Current climate. The proposed 2025-26 budget reflects a state school fund, or SSF, of $11.3 billion as appropriated by the Oregon legislature for the 2025-2027 biennium. This funding level represents a 10.78% increase over the previous biennium. It is also important to note that on an annual basis, the level of increased state funding makes it difficult to keep up with costs in our current inflationary environment. While inflation has cooled over recent months, impacts on program costs are evident throughout our organization. Fortunately, the district is receiving additional revenue from the expansion of our virtual school program, currently serving students outside the district in grades K through 8. The district has also recently settled labor contracts with the NISA Education Association and the NISA Classified Bargaining Association. This budget message is designed to summarize important features, financial policies, and plan modifications. In the 2025-26 proposed budget of $48,228,784 and general fund budget of $35,165,820. In addition, given the volume of proposed legislation in the years-long session, the most in Oregon's history, we believe the estimate of $11.3 billion offers the most stable projection of what districts can safely expect to receive at this time. While we may anticipate future adjustments based on legislative decisions and potential encumbrances, this budget represents our best understanding of stable resources that will be available to us in the upcoming budget. Planning the 2025-2026 budget. The budget is based on funding of $11.3 billion state school fund for the 25-27 biennium. It includes funding for staff. It also includes a $2,275,885,642 billion allocation from the state investment account. The SIA is a part of the Student Success Act that is passed during the 2019 legislative session, funded by the state's corporate activity tax. It is also important to note that our budget reflects increased payroll costs due to newly negotiated and projected contracts across all employee groups. These adjustments reflect our ongoing commitment to fair compensation and retention of our talented workforce and encouraging new prospective employees to consider the NISA School District as an employer. Additionally, as virtual school is projected to emerge as the largest school within our district, we have accounted for the additional revenue as well as the increased costs associated with this operation. This underscores our dedication to meeting the diverse needs of our student populations and embracing innovative educational models, aligning with student success. The 2025-26 proposed budget includes integrated programs for aligning student success as required by ODE for the school districts to receive funding for the SIA, HSS, CTE, and Perkins. Continuous improvement planning, everyday matters, and early indicator intervention system. The district assembled an integrated programs planning team back in the fall of 2022 and conducted a comprehensive need assessments, including reviewing data on graduation and dropout rates, smarter balanced assessment results, English language proficiency results, Oregon accelerated learning and career technical dashboards, chronic absenteeism, Oregon student health, survey responses, and community feedback from extensive outreach to students, families, staff, and the community. But you'll start seeing the projected changes. Now we've set the stage, just give you a heads up. Elementary education. We will be adding additional teaching staff focused on physical fitness and health education, supporting our belief in educating the whole child and meeting state-required physical fitness hours. In middle school, dual language development. We are expanding staff to further strengthen and develop our K-12 dual language pathway, ensuring students have access to bilingual education that supports academic achievement and cultural connections. Virtual learning stability. With improved enrollment stability in our virtual program, we are now better prepared and positioned to align staffing with student needs and expand and strengthen the support structures that have made the program increasingly successful. Budget development process for the 2025-2026 budget. From January through April 25, feedback from the school district and district leadership informed some modifications to the general fund. The proposed budget also includes reductions made to align our current staffing on projected enrollment, maintaining staff ratios to the best extent possible. The superintendent's cabinet reviewed the budget changes. Beginning in April through May 2025, the final phase includes the delivery of the superintendent's budget message and the 2025-2026 proposed budget to the budget committee. The budget committee will review the proposed budget, receive community testimony, and request any additional information. The budget committee will see that the budget is balanced and aligns with student needs. Finally, the budget committee will approve the budget and tax levies and send the approved budget to the school board for approval, and that will be next week on the 12th.
No.
Or,
Flies.
no, I'm sorry, June. We have to have 10 days of it be posted and then, so June will be the time we'll be presenting to the school board. Sorry about that.
We gotta post it.
Yes. So in conclusion, in closing, I want to thank the school board, administrators, staff, and community for their dedication and hard work in preparing the proposed 2025 and 26 budget. Many thanks to the budget committee for its thoughts and attention in reviewing the proposed budget and providing feedback. As we plan for the 2025-2026 school year, I also want to especially thank Crystal Ledoux, the business manager, and her staff. She didn't read it, that's what she spread that. No, sorry, she didn't. And her staff for preparing the budget document. This work, much like aligning the student success plan, provides guidance on spending priorities and a framework for future investments. We will continue to move forward and meet the challenges of educating our children in these challenging times. Ultimately, the main message of this year's budget is clear. We are growing, and we are growing in purpose. Even in the face of ongoing change and new legislative challenges, our focus remains unwavering, supporting our students, empowering our educators, and serving our community with integrity and care. We'll continue to advocate at the state level for not only our students, but all Oregon students. We'll continue to look for ways to innovate and improve, and we'll continue to partner with our community to ensure that all students succeed. In essence, this budget is a testament to our community's steadfast commitment to becoming a destination district for staff, students, and families alike. By prioritizing investments in key areas, we are laying the foundation for continued growth, excellence, and inclusivity within our schools. Our goal is to increase student learning and opportunities for every child. I'm pleased to propose a budget with significant investments to meet the needs of our students. Thank you for your consideration of the 2025-2026 proposed budget. We can take a nap now. Thank you. Crystal.
Yes, with that said, if we want to flip a couple pages, I've included all the requirements of the budget where I posted it in the paper. You have a table of contents with all of our pages numbered because it is such a large budget. But if we want to turn to page 1, we always start the budget with our general fund. And we start with the revenue first. So as Ryan had mentioned, the governor's proposed budget of $11.3 billion for the biennium, that's what I based our numbers off of. And so going down our revenue in the general fund, I guess I should explain because we do have new budget members. By Oregon law, a budget, you have to show 2 years of actual financials. You have to show the current fiscal year budget that we're in right now, and then there's a column for the proposed budget. So we're focusing tonight on the proposed budget, but you can look back the different columns to the right to see what we budgeted this year and then what we actually spent a couple years past. So that's the layout of the reports that you guys are looking at. So in our general fund, the first thing that we budget is our current year taxes. That's property taxes that the district receives from the county. And on average, rule of thumb, property taxes go up about 3% every year. So that number is just going to increase 3%. In addition, not all people pay their property taxes in the current year. Some people are behind, so we also budget for prior year taxes. And so I just increased that by 3% as well. Every month I talk to the board. I talk about our LGIP, which is called our Local Government Investment Pool. It's our accounts where we keep our money. And that account earns interest. And so the interest that is accrued on those accounts, this is where we account for it in our budget. I'm not sure exactly what interest rates are going to do for the coming year, so I've just kept it the same as what we did this year, just to be conservative. Hopefully the interest rates go up. The next line says admissions, and you're going to be like, well, what is that? Well, every time, say, you go to a game and you pay an entry fee to the football game, the basketball game, that's where this money is coming in and is accounted for in our budget. It has gone down, and there is a purpose behind that. If we all know, or we should know, that we're installing some turf on the football field. And so I've taken, researched kind of what we make and what we're expecting to make now that we will be taking entry fees at soccer now. And we've decided that that money for those events that happen out there should go towards our turf replacement fund. That is something that we will have to eventually replace in the future. So that's why in the general fund, that number has gone down, but you'll see that $5,000 funneled into a different account later in this budget. Fees charged to grants. So we receive federal funding, which will go over. We apply every year for something called an indirect rate. That's a percentage that the state awards to us that we can apply to those grants. Helps cover things like my expense for doing the financials of the grants, for Ryan, jump in whenever you may do well.
No.
Trying to explain.
Yeah, all the district office staff, so if you look at things like running payroll, things like paying somebody to manage those grants, we're able to take that percentage, which is 2.7%, and pay that for some of their salaries. So you'll see that that's where that money comes in. It's our indirect rate for services.
Yes. So fees charged to grants, that's based off federal money that we receive. And we're moving forward with this budget of our federal funding staying flat, minus one or two specific programs, so I just left that number the same as what we budgeted this year. And then miscellaneous revenue, that's different things. Sometimes we get grants coming in, local grants that's not state or federal. I just kept that the same as last year as well. Moving down the line, the county school fund. This year I didn't budget anything, but I do believe we're going to get a little bit. So I went ahead and put it in the budget for next year. Hoping for, I mean, we've been receiving, 2 years ago we got almost 1,000, but I just put it in to be conservative at about $500. The biggest change is our state school fund. And this change is because of our increased enrollment due to our virtual school. And so my projections based off the governor's budget, based off where we are with our enrollment, I'm thinking the state school fund's going to be close to $27 million next year. And then we also receive a common school fund, that's state funding. It hasn't really gone up the last couple of years, so I just kept that the same at $168,000. And then the other thing that I budgeted, we'll have a beginning fund balance. If you know budgets at the end of June 30th of this year, 2025, whatever is in our ending fund balance becomes our beginning fund balance. And so then that is revenue that then we budget out. So my best estimate as of April 30th, I think our beginning fund balance will be a little over $6.5 million. So that's where that number comes from. So that totals the general fund alone at a little bit over $35 million for the 25-26 school year. Questions on revenue for just the general fund?
How many kids do you be basing it off of the same?
So it's hard because the state school fund is based off of a average daily membership weighted. And so one student, they could be a 1, but they could be more than just a 1 that we receive based on their, so.
2,400 is about what we're doing.
2,400.
Yeah,
Is that
With the virtual school.
that's what their virtual school, yes. So I wish I could say one
Yeah,
student
right.
equals this amount, but every student is different depending on.
And how big is our school without limited right now?
I mean, it's a little over 1,100 somewhere.
Okay. So that's the revenue for the general fund. As we flip to the next page, page 2, we get into expenditures. And by the end of the general fund budget, the expenditures will equal the revenue. That's what makes it balanced. So we're going to go through a little over $35 million worth of expenditures rather quickly, because I don't want to bore you guys. So our general fund budget is broken out by first school, elementary, middle school, high school, and then a bunch of different departments that we have on campus. The biggest thing that our biggest expenditure on campus is our labor, our salaries, and our benefits. It was actually kind of a nice budget year to budget because our union, we came to agreement with both unions, And so I knew exactly what people are going to make next year. So I just plugged in those agreed upon rates. I also budget based off of what we call position budgeting. So what I do is take a snapshot of our current payroll, every position that's in there, and then I move it into the budget and then adjust the salaries from there. So I'm capturing everyone. And then adding in what Mr. Hawkins and the administrative team, their wishes of where we want to go forward. So this budget, elementary, for example, is the first one we're going to look at. They asked me to add an elementary teacher to focus on
Physical education.
physical education and health. So that's in this budget. Our 2025-26 curriculum adoption. Every year we adopt a different curriculum. This upcoming year will be social studies. So I've also adjusted, when we go down the line, textbook line, that's where we pay our curriculum out of, adjusted for our social studies adoption. This year it was a health curriculum, social studies, I think about the same, maybe a little bit more. But it's nothing compared to adopting math curriculum or
ELA.
English, yeah. So anyway, as we go down the line, the first thing is our salaries. Teachers are considered licensed salaries. Under the line classified wages, that takes into consideration paraprofessionals, or they're also called instructional assistants. Then we also budget for licensed substitutes. So that's when a teacher is out and we need to have a substitute. We need a line in our budget to pay for that. And then additional salary, that's where we pay, in our classified contracts, they have a longevity clause. So a certain amount of years that you work here, you get a certain amount of money. And so you see additional salary, that's what that is budgeted for. Underneath the salaries, that's all of the payroll costs. So a district doesn't just pay a salary, we have to pay everything on top of that. And a huge part of our payroll costs are PERS, and that's retirement. Our rates are going up as of July 1st. To give you an example, there's two different levels of PERS, and you'll see it listed out. Tier 1, 2, and I'm not really good on the dates, but it's when you were hired a certain date or before, back in the 90s.
Back in the 90s, and I know tier 2 stopped. There were worse, so I know that much. It's similar to me a little bit. So that was 2003. So it goes early 90s or late 90s, 2003. You're tier 2.
That was tier 1.
Tier 1. We won't go
So
into dates.
all
Anyways.
that means is a tier 1, 2 PERS employee is going to cost the district more than what they call an officer, which I'm in that boat. So, but our tier 1 PERS, currently our rate is 27.87%. It's going up to 29.7%, so that's a 1.83% increase. And our employees that fall under officer, it's going from 25.03% to 26.52%, which is 1.49% increase. And then on top of that, the district then pays an additional 6% on every employee, and they call that a PERS pickup. So that is all encompassed in the next two lines. It's called PERS and officers, and it's based off of the wages that I have above in the document, if that makes sense. It's complicated, but hopefully I'm explaining it.
Question, can we still have the papers for, people back here in the back? They haven't changed that.
For retirees.
Sorry, I should talk
Uh,
about it.
Yes, we have, yes. We have
Stop
papers
for
for
there,
that.
for that.
Yes. And then in addition, anyone that's worked a job knows you personally pay Social Security, FICA, but also your employer does, so that's the next line item there. We also pay workers' compensation. Depending on who you are, what role you do in this district, we have different workers' compensation rates. So obviously food service is going to be a little bit higher than an IA in the classroom. Unemployment compensation, we can't get out of that. A couple years ago, they added in Paid Leave Oregon, which both the employee and the employer pay into, and then of course we provide health insurance to our employees. And the health insurance numbers are all based off of the negotiated contracts with the unions. So not a number I made up, it's all settled and done for the next couple of years. So yeah, not really a lot of change in the elementary school from this year's adopted budget to next year's projected budget. I think all the 300s that you see, and I don't think much has changed there at all. I think that's a fine budget. And just so you know, I do meet with every single administrator, every single principal of every building, department head to go over line item by line item. We look at what their actuals are based on their budget this year and just make adjustments. I also make notes and have post-its all year long of like, I didn't budget for that, make sure I budgeted for it this year. So there are a few things that have changed. But for the most part, it's staying about the same. Textbooks again have changed a little bit, new equipment staying the same. Does anyone have questions? Can I go a little faster or
Crystal,
am I going too fast?
How much, if you wouldn't mind, you said this, but I'm trying to recall.
Yeah.
How much did the PERS go up this year?
So if you're a tier 1, 2, it's gone up 1.83%. And if you're an officer, it's increased by 1.49%.
And there's some legislation to find that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the current percent.
Yep, and that will go into effect July 1st. So after the elementary, we go to the middle school budget. Again, adjusted salaries for the staff there. I've also added a position for a middle school dual language teacher. Adjusted the additional salaries stayed the same, so that tells me no one's moving up or has been here long enough to receive longevity for next year in that particular building, so that's staying the same. And then the payroll costs just associated with those salaries, that fills in the next section. And I had a really good conversation with the middle school principal. It's her first year this year. She had really good notes for her budget. We did need to increase, if you look, it's number 319, other instructional services. I did not account for last year an online program that school uses, and in addition the high school uses. So I made that adjustment in this budget. It's about $10,000 for each building. So that is the increase there. Other than that, textbooks got adjusted, everything else basically the same. After the middle school budget, we have a middle school extracurricular budget. That's where all the extra duty contracts come in, a lot of coaching contracts, SMILE advisor kind of contracts, things like that. That's where that's held in this budget. Did increase the general professional services. This is where we pay officials for like games. The prices skyrocketed. It is insane how much official costs have gone up. So that went up quite a bit. And also she had asked for a little bit more money for just equipment to support her programs at the middle school. Next is the high school budget. Again, adjusted the salaries, the wages, payroll costs. Mr. Klinger and I had pretty good conversations as well about his budget. Oh, I did misspeak. His instructional services, number 319, I'm on page 5. Sorry, Rose, I'm on page 5. We did increase that 20,000. That was to account for that online program. So I misspoke. Middle school was 10, high school was 20. And then also I adjusted his textbooks. That was a big chunk. And that's it there.
Just for the record, when she used the term Mr. Cleaver,
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
I
Luke
had nothing
Cleaver.
to do with it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Luke Cleaver. Thank you, sorry. After the high school budget is the high school extracurricular budget. This is coaching, contracts, things like that. And in addition, just like middle school, we increased professional services for those official expenses. And our athletic director wanted a little bit more money for consumables, for things to support our programs. So that's really our buildings, our big 3 major buildings on campus. After that, you'll see we have something called pre-kindergarten programs. Last year we attempted to add in a pre-K program, but we went a different route, and so that is not being used in this current budget, and it's not needed for next year's budget, so I've just zeroed it out, but I still have to show it for historical purposes. So. After that, we get into what we call TAG at the district, or talented and gifted. We do have a budget for that. We do have a certified staff member that works on that, so some of their wages is paid from this fund. In addition, there's some budget for consumables, for testing supplies, and for curriculum. After that is our student with disabilities budget. I work with Mrs. White on this budget very closely. So this is where we pay some of our special education teachers and IAs from. Also pay, we have some contracts with the ESD. They provide some services for the district. That's where that gets paid out of from the budget. I did contact the business manager at the ESD to ask what our rates will be, or what our contract amounts will be next year, and adjusted them to what those are. That's the increase on under instructional services and instructional programs. But not a lot of change in the special education budget. You're going to see the theme here is salaries and benefits. That's our biggest change this year. After that, we have our alternative education program. I guess I should have updated this to be called Creative Choices. Is now the new name of this program, and I didn't change that in the budget, so I apologize. But really, salaries, wages have been changed for that. We use a program, Baker Web, to help us with this particular program. So that's with purchase services, $54,000. That's what that's budgeted for, and then also give them some consumables because they like to buy, toner and things for their printer. After that is our further technical education budget. This is a contract with the ESD that we have, that they provide someone, we won't say names at this meeting, but one of their staff members provides services here at our school, and that's where that contract is paid out of. The next budget that we're going to talk about is our NISA online school, also been called NISA virtual school. In this budget, I'm calling it the online school. So this budget encompasses for salary. We have an administrator, we have a tech position, we have a 1.5 FTE. FTE stands for full-time employee, special education teacher to support this program, and an office manager. That's the increase there. I've also increased the purchase services line. We partner with a company called Open Ed to help us run the virtual school. We have a contract with them, and so that payment budget line item is just adjusted to reflect what I think our virtual school will be next year. And then I did increase on page 10 the computer hardware. We did go up because we have added some positions, so we're going to need some new computers, and that's got to come from somewhere. So that's why that budget went up. Questions on that?
So this year we had a whole lot more students than we expected, right? But what are we anticipating for growth?
So stability is the name of the game this year. So we really, since we do have a sister school, most of the new enrollees will go to the sister school.
Okay.
And then so it really, we're just looking at legacy, so not much, maybe 100. So, I mean, for the first year in the programs, is really that most of
So we shouldn't end up in the same.
I should
problem
not have to be
this year.
doing a
Yeah.
supplemental budget this
Yeah.
coming year.
Could you explain that for people that don't know sister school?
So there's another school in Oregon that partnered with Open Ed, who we contract through, and so really it's those students that are working with kind of Open Ed. We help, it's Scappoose School District. They're opening up a kind of another campus. I call it a sister school because we are both using Open Ed and we're helping them.
Who is it?
Huh?
Who is it? What school is it?
Scappoose.
That's the one that one in each state. I don't think it's the deal.
For stability reason why, we decided that our board is to cap it at about a good comfort level for the school district. And so, and we are looking to grow that program to high school next year after that. So we decided we're going to cap it right now. And so that's where the new students are going.
Okay?
Crystal, could I?
Yeah.
You talked earlier about the total local revenue. Percentage-wise, how much of that revenue is local compared to other sources, federal government, whatever?
are you talking within the
With-
state school fund or just what we receive, like local, hold on, no, it's my revenue.
Well, I'm sure that everybody gets the same emails I get every day from OSBA. And it's, every day, it's, the sky is falling.
Right,
So
so,
I wanna know how that sky affects Nessus school.
right, so what I budget for our, what we consider local revenue for our general fund is a little over 1.4 million, but our general fund revenue is 35 million. So it's a very small part of the revenue we receive.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So all that federal freezing that they're talking about, like, how's that gonna affect our special ed? Like, it takes the-
I'll let Ryan answer that.
Yeah, so.
I know we don't know for sure, but I mean.
And if you read the Trump's proposed budget, his skinny budget as they call it, IDEA and these things are actually maintenance of those. So it looks like from the federal, right, you have your IDEA, but we still have SPED here, right? And so, but as far as that, we're anticipating more of that. Really the large ones, the federal ones we will see, in fact, I'm gonna see it, are our 1C due enrollment, and our 2A and the 4, those are ones.
Just two, just Title II and Title I-C, which is our.
So 1C, and then again, that's what's in our budget, because we're reducing enrollment in our 1C, which is our migrant program. There's a big cut there, because we get paid per kid, right? That's where that weight comes in at. So there is a reduction of that we're getting, and so that's not like a federal cut, that is based on enrollment, that's what we're going to see funding for. 2A is, it's teacher.
It's based on, for professional development
Yeah.
of our certified administrators.
And that's not even in the proposed skinny budget, so, so that was one of the cuts that we saw from the federal.
But this budget doesn't anticipate a reduction in force.
The opposite.
That's what I understand.
There is in one area, there is a, there will be, because of N1C with enrollment being that much, there is a reduction of that in that one, and so I spoke, there is that based on enrollment, but other than that, we're adding some areas. So, which is a different message than a lot of school districts.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm gonna spend 3 days in Sun River tomorrow listening to the rest of the state.
having to cut, and we're in a unique situation.
I'm not gonna tell them anything about this meeting.
Yeah, good.
Well, you know it's on the air.
Yeah, and I put that in my message is that we are growing. So that, which is a very, very optimistic, so we're, great question, so.
Okay, so we're still on page 10. I'll try to talk a little faster. Our English as a second language, basically all that changed in this is our salaries, just adjusted for the increase in that and the payroll cost, everything else stayed the same. At the bottom of page 10, you'll see function 1293, that is migrant education. So we budget, let me see what I have, $7,500, and what that is to help support our 1C programs with things like food, and I know PAC meetings, sometimes they give away raffle gifts and things like that. So those items come from this budget out of the general fund. On page 12, student safety. So prior to us receiving Student Investment Act funds, we would pay for our SRO, is what we call the position, out of our general fund. That's now moved to a different grant, so that's why that's zero. But historically, you can see the last time we paid for that expense from our general fund was in 22-23. Counseling services, this is basically just supporting our counseling departments within all 3 buildings. And I don't believe there were big changes or any changes there. Bottom of page 12, curriculum development, or adjustment of some increased wages. Nothing else has changed from the current adopted budget to the proposed budget. Classified staff development, this is in our union contract that we have to provide $1,000, something that we negotiate with the union, so that is where it lands in the budget, and in addition, $2,500 of added to street travel. budget. This is libraries in elementary, middle school, and high school. Pay wages out of that budget. Pay for our library, I'm trying to think, software that we use to check out our library books, that kind of thing. Also give them some money to purchase new library books for our students to read and check out. That's basically that budget. Moving down to assessment and testing, a little bit of wages in that, as we have one FTE that does numerous things, and part of their job is official testing of students.
District testing coordinator.
Thank you. Couldn't think of that. So just wages were adjusted in that budget. After that, instructional staff development, I didn't increase anything in that from this year's budget to next year's budget. And then we get down the middle of the page, Board of Education Services. So this is what we consider our board budget. I did increase and adjusted for our audit that will happen next year. Let's see, yeah, next year for this year, but our contract is going up with them, so that is adjusted. What else did I adjust? I think that is it for the board account, basically. Oh, I did decrease negotiation services because we are not in negotiations. So that, I misspoke, yes, we are. We go back into with classified, but not certified. So because we're not negotiating with both unions, I decreased that budget. Oh, it's back until next year. Good job.
So, yeah, this just dawned on me. So this is what our budgets were, but what did we actually spend on some of these things?
Right, so Oregon budget law, I only have to show, what I proposed, what our current budget is, and then 2 years of actuals. So historically, I can show you 22, 23, 24. I can go get my laptop and pull numbers as of right now, but in this document, it doesn't show.
Yeah, well, and bluntly, the thing that surprised me with legal services was 25,000 with all the 1C issues. Is that somewhere else in the budget?
No, that's where we would pay it from, but really,
Okay.
our expense with lawyers this year, last year, is nothing compared to what it was a couple years ago. So,
So
All
you're,
right, so this is actual spent in the prior 2 years. Okay.
yeah. So if you look like in 23, 24, that $49,003, that was actual what we spent. Then I budgeted this year is 25,000, which we have not gone over budget on that. I know. And so next year I'm not projecting anything crazy.
Right.
Yeah, so that is the board account. We flip to page 16, we get into the office of the superintendent. That is Mr. Hawkins' budget. It accounts for his wages. And let's see, sorry, off track here. Our executive administrative assistant of the district, I'm trying to remember her title I gave her, some of her wages. Basically, we've increased a few places. Ryan can tell you why if you're interested.
So like out of district travel.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
And that was a big, we're trying to invest in sending our people, getting proper training and better, and that's something that we're really interested in. So basically, it's that fun where I get to say, yes, everyone wants to go to UIS, I want you to go. So that has limited us in the past, and that's something that we're really interested in the past through Washington District. So that's why I asked for an increase in that.
And then after that is the office of the principal budget. This is where most, all of our principals and their office staff is paid from. So increase in their salaries and wages. Other support services and administration. This is wages for an administrator. Trying to think. It's hard to not say.
The purchase. Can you say that?
Yes, I guess you could say that.
Yeah, so and at the administrator of the virtual school.
No, that's not right. That was in the virtual school. No, this is, I know this is, Director of Federal Programs.
Oh, that's what it is, Director of Federal
Sorry.
Programs, that's what it is.
And then after that is federal programs, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
After that is the most important budget in my business office budget, which the budget committee was so great a couple of years ago to grant me another FTE in my office, which I appreciate. So that's carried forward. Our salaries, wages, payroll costs. Let's see. Trying to remember. Mr. Hawkins and I spoke about purchase services for the business office. I've already overspent $55,000 this year, which is our proposed budget. And next year, we really want to focus on the human resource part of the district. We don't have a human resource designated person. We have an individual that does it who's really good, but we need some computer support. What is it called? Like software? We don't have anything like that.
Yeah, seeking kind of some outside support, there's a lot of HR specialists out there that have forms of legal advice and rather, which is a cost savings for us to help, like I said, building our capacity, investing in our people. And so instead of hiring an HR specialist 1.0, going out and kind of doing a contract service, kind of like a legal service for you. And so that's what that is.
So that's the adjustment in the business office budget. After that is our maintenance budget. This is our, I say maintenance, but it's also custodial, so it's custodial and maintenance budget. Salaries and wages for that. Consumables, supplies, non-consumables, new equipment. I worked with our maintenance director on this and his budget. Our biggest change, you're going to see that liability insurance increase. I forgot to mention that. PACE has come out, that's the insurance company we use. Our projected increase next year is over 18% again. So that's that large jump there in liability insurance and property insurance. It's getting more expensive every year.
Insurance was a big part of it. So you just said.
I know the other side of the state, last year, a year and a half ago, had all those wildfires, and unfortunately, that drives up our rates. So maintenance is kind of broke out, maintenance and then upkeep of buildings, and then the last portion is upkeep of grounds. That's the difference. So different people work in different areas. It's broken out in this budget. After that, on page 21, trying to go faster, is our transportation, or 2021 is our transportation or vehicle operation services. I call it transportation. So this is where we pay our bus drivers, their wages, their benefits, purchase services, maintenance and repairs. That's all the same as this year. Consumable supplies. That's where we pay all of our fuel from, our diesel and our unleaded and our propane. I'm not estimating a huge increase next year, but actually I didn't budget an increase at all. We're going to be under 70,000 this year, so I didn't feel the need to go up. However, I don't know. It's all based on the economy and what gas is going to cost. I know we sat in meetings a couple of years ago where gas is $5 a gallon. Sorry, we're blowing our budget. So my best guess there. After our transportation budget, we get into our tech budget, technology services. We have 2 FTE in that department. I think everything has stayed the same on their budget, just an increase in wages or in salaries. Page 22. I kind of wrote notes. Check this out. Our early retiree health insurance. So this, we're currently just we're going to go a little bit over budget of $35,000 this year. So I did increase it for next year, and that's because we had a teacher that qualified in this category to receive that early retiree benefit that's in the contract with the certified union. If you were employed by a certain day, I believe in 1997, if you retire, you get a benefit until you're 65, I believe. So I'm just increasing that to account for that extra expense. So that's what that budget is. And then transfer of funds. This coming year, put in a budget of $3.2 million, and it's broken out. Unfortunately, it doesn't list it out for you. So we get this money coming into the general fund, and then we have to support some of our other budgets outside of the general fund. So the $3.2 million, this is what makes up that $3.2 million. The board gives out $5,000 worth of board scholarships every year, so we transfer $5,000 from the general fund to our scholarship fund to account for that. We also contract with OSU to run a SMILE program, science, mathematics, investigative learning. Thank you. Was close. Anyway, it's such a great program. We run it in all 3 schools. It's kept in a different special revenue fund in our budget. However, it costs us more to run the program than OSU will give us, unfortunately. They do give us some money. So in order to not run that program in the negative, I have a transfer of funds to that account. Also, we have a bus replacement fund we'll go over later. We're going to do a transfer from the general fund to the bus replacement fund of a little over $125,000. We're not anticipating purchasing a bus next year. However, in future years, we will be. And so we're building that account, so we're not needing a bus right now and we have no money. That's what that transfer is.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
On the buses, like, I get a lot of, what's that reason? Seems like that's a big problem with sports, of getting, especially this time of year, getting enough transportation to get kids. So they just don't schedule events because they say that there's not transportation.
So there's plenty of vehicles, it's lacking the people to drive those vehicles. And so there's often times when getting kids from home to school conflicts with sports schedules. And so that our priority is getting kids from school to home on that. And so we've done a really good job to try to go around that, having them leave earlier or take minis. But, so anyway, so this will.
Yeah, so if you wanna hire a bus driver, can you do that, or is it not really there?
Yeah, we have that, and we have a open position, so we're always, yeah. Anybody want to?
I'm not doing it.
Mike Hurley has a CDL. No, and we have it built in there to hire 9, so, but yeah.
It's hard to find bus drivers.
It is really hard to find. Every school has a sign up.
Oh, every school.
It's not the driving the bus, it's the kids on the bus, right?
Bus is delayed.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you'll see that, right, this is delayed because we'll try to collapse, 2 of them, and then so we'll have to do 2 of them, but,
So is there money when these kids are in school like Fridays? There's money there for these to hire bus drivers to take kids if they wanted to have
absolutely.
sporting events on Fridays?
Yep.
Like,
So any
Just
friend.
need a driver.
what?
We just need drivers.
I will say we are actually best staffed we've been since pre-COVID, and which is, when COVID hit, a lot of our drivers would go over entirely, like they didn't come back, and so, but I will say we're the best staff that didn't fall. So
Awesome.
We're getting there. Okay, then earlier I spoke about the turf from the field. So this investment that the board's committed to, the district's committed to, in about 10 years, we're probably going to have to replace it. And it's not really fair to look 10 years down the road and say, okay, come up with $500,000. And so the idea here is we're building this turf replacement fund over the next decade. So we're not looking at the community saying we need money for something we did 10 years ago. So there's going to, our idea is $50,000 every single year for the next year to get us to that $500,000 that we'll need. So that's in that 3.2 million. Sorry, I was on that. Also, we know our food service runs in the negative. This year, we're probably projected to transfer about $55,000 to that program to make them break even. With food costs going up and labor and payroll costs, I'm projecting about $72,000 we'll need to transfer next year to that program to make it break even. And then finally, the largest transfer to our Fund 440, which is our facility management fund, that's a $3 million going to that fund. And that is supporting the 5-year district plan to start, I don't want to say renovations, but I don't know how you want to word it. Buildings are starting to get old, and we need to put some money away and start working on things. So roofs are leaking, things like that.
facility investment.
There it is.
Did you have a?
I have another question. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That's good.
You're fine.
So with this whole Oregon presidential thing, the food deal, is that, any thoughts on that? We're talking about the food service service?
Lots of thoughts, and there's been lots of planning, and really what we've, Crystal and I have sat down and looked at the budget and say, worst case scenario, we leave all of it. You know, how long can we maintain it? And that's without state help. Obviously, the state has over $3 billion in the rainy day fund that they can use to augment federal programs, research and things like that. And so we have kind of that plan. Plan A is everything's gonna be good. Plan B is the state's gonna come. Plan C, we have these other funds. If we look at kind of our $3 million and how long that's gonna take, it'll actually be, we could go with all those programs, those federally funded programs for 2 years, and we can maintain and not affect our staff. And so, so what I'm saying is, we've looked at that and we've planned accordingly just in case. And so we do have a bunch of plans.
So we have plan A to C. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're on AA actually. We went past it and
Yes.
we went A. But just, and that's kind of what Chris was really good at, that kind of forward thinking and, you know, like, what does this look like and how does that affect our life? Because at the end of the day, every dollar in here affects our community when we think about. And so that's what we really appreciate that kind of forward thinking. And the board too, right? And so, you know, hope that answers your question. You got a sales pitch too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On page 24, so the board adopted a new policy or a revised policy, I can't remember off the top of my head, about our contingency and our reserve for the general fund. Our contingency policy must be at least 5%. I have to budget 5%. In this budget, it is 5% of our general fund revenue. And the reserve, the policy states it has to be at least 8%. This budget has a 9%. We're building. We're getting there. So that's what this $4.7 million is. That is our contingency and our reserves. That is the last thing we ever want to touch, but it's there with board approval. Like your savings account, you could go with that.
Could you restate those percentages
Yes.
again?
So by policy, contingency has to be at least 5%, and our reserve has to be at least 8%. In this budget, our contingency is 5%, and the reserve is 9%.
Thank you.
So then if you flip to page 25, you're gonna see that 35,165,820.25, that matches revenue to the penny. So that is a balanced general fund budget. And then every year I get a request from Mr. Bunker to have a colored picture. And so I provided that this year and he didn't show. But this is just a breakdown, everything we just discussed, revenue, where it comes from, what the percentage is, and the expenditures, how I budgeted it out. In a colorful picture for you to put on your fridge. Okay, so the overall budget's like 48 million. We just went through 35 million of it, so we'll go a little bit faster now. It's not as hard. So on page 26, you'll see it says fund. It starts 201. So 200s in a budget are considered special revenue funds. These are funds that are required to be separate from the general fund. That's why they're not in the general fund budget. This is where we have our title funding that we get from the federal government, scholarships, SMILE program, things like that. So quickly go through these, pretty easy. We're not anticipating increased federal funding, so basically just flat budgeting. So Title 1A, I wrote down, just for people that don't know, we are a Title 1A school at our elementary, so this whole entire budget is just for elementary. This budget consists of 1 full-time teacher and 6 full-time instructional assistants. And also I'm budgeting for the after-school program that is run throughout the school year. So that is what Title 1A is. That is page 26 and 27 and 28.
That in addition to the 22 FTE that we looked at.
But again, Title 1A funding can only be spent at the elementary school. Title 2, that's something Mr. Hawkins talked about, might not be here next year. We're not really sure. I went ahead and adjusted the budget for the amount that we received this year, and I left it in there. This is all strictly for professional development. What we use it for currently, mentor teaching stipends, things like that, PLC, leader stipends. And I'll let Mr. Hawkins tell you what PLC is because he can't remember, because there's too many acronyms in this world.
Professional learning community. So,
Thank you.
yeah, PLC is a teachers meeting together to look at some of our data teams look, and so to lead that and run that.
So if That brings us to page 33, which is Title III. Title Title III is a grant, federal money that we receive for English language learners. And I've worked really closely with our federal programs director. He writes the budget narratives that are submitted to the state of Oregon, or Oregon Department of Education for approval. So working with him of, well, what are you budgeting? What are you thinking for next year? So really working with him to make these budgets. To go down a little on this, I do think it will go down a little bit on Title III next year. But things for everyone that's new here that we don't really know what we spend, it's things like, we have something called flashlight licenses renewal. It's an expense that we have every year. And I'm like, well, what is that? Because I pay bills every day for this district, and sometimes I don't know what everything is, like a flashlight license. So that is to assist with the improvement of speaking and writing, which makes sense because this is a grant for English language learners. So things like that, that's what we pay for out of this grant. No wages, just supporting our students. On page 36, this is Title IV-A. Title IV-A funds are used to assess to well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, and effective use of technology. That's how we can use this money. This district has decided, this year, we've supported the purchase of our Character Strong social emotional learning SEL curriculum, and also an investment into an app, emergency app for all staff. So that's that.
Crystal?
Yes.
I'm gonna roll back to
Go ahead.
Title III real quick.
Title III, go back.
So you said there's no salaries paid out of it,
No.
but there were salaries last year paid out of it.
Let me look.
And I think that was an adjustment based on direction from OEE.
Yeah, so things have changed over the years. Like this, are you looking at, which column are you looking at? Current budget or prior year
So
actuals?
current budget.
Current budget.
24, 25, it shows salaries and wages.
What page
7,500.
are you on?
35.
License substitutes. So I believe in the current budget narrative that we submitted to the state, this year it was approved for if staff were to leave to go do training for English language learners, we could hire a substitute and pay the sub's wages from using this. So it is going to vary every year based on what we write and submit to the state for approval.
Substitutes get PERS.
And they get other benefits.
Yes, they do. But that's a great question.
Wait, subs get PERS? Another one, does someone get?
They get sick leave, they get PERS, they get.
You said they get other benefits as well?
Yeah, they accrue leave as well.
Substitutes get sick leave. You're saying no one's sick, I'm not.
I'm gonna sign up, there.
Okay, we're now to page 38.
Health insurance?
Oh, yeah, there you go. No, because they're contracted.
It's happening in the budget.
Okay, so page 38 is Title I-C, that is our migrant funding. A few things to note for next year that we've been told from the state. For fiscal year 26, which is what we're talking about, the state will no longer be allocating Title I-C money 3 different ways. So in our current budget, we have Title I-C regular program, which is Fund 208. Then we receive some money for preschool, which we house in our current budget in Fund 209. And then we get money for summer school, migrant summer school, which is in Fund 257. Next year, the state's not doing that. It's one lump sum of money. So in this budget, I've accounted for all 3 programs condensed into one, however, reduced by $150,000 because our enrollment numbers in that program have gone down so much. We're going to see a reduction of $150,000. So kind of combining 3 budgets into one, reducing it by $150,000, and I'm coming up with, I think our revenue will be around $669,000 for all of Title I-C next year. This does, on page 39, 40, 41, I think is the whole entire budget. There is a reduction of 1 FTE in this budget because of that $150,000 reduction. We've also decreased travel expenditures. Every
your numbers over here are gonna be, are from, it's being split 3 ways, does that make sense?
No, so, no, that's a good question. So prior year is just, this was just regular school year program. So if you go to, Michael, if you go to page, 44, that's our preschool money. So you'll see the actuals in that, but nothing budgeted this year. So if you wanted to go back and look to see, well, what did we spend in migrant preschool for 23, 24, you look at page 44. But for this year and moving forward, it'll be in this fund, Fund 208.
So your question being that in 24, 25, there's 607,000 in there, and you said, but now we have 669, I thought you said we're reducing it. This is only one of those funds. This is 3 funds in
Yes,
one.
3 funds in one.
Yeah, so it is a sharp reduction, so that's why it looks that way. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not decreased.
Yeah, I guess.
So that's what you'll see, that all 3 of those in there. So if you take this one, add in preschool and summer, and then you could, that's an actual compare to that for summer.
Sorry. That's a good question, and I didn't say that very clearly, but yes, that's what's going on. So then when you get to page 43 and 44, that was the preschool, migrant preschool money. Now, for next year, everything is 0. But I still have to leave it in for everyone to see in the budget. When we get to page 45, this special revenue fund is called the Ewing Sports Fund. The district was gifted some things from Mrs. Ewing after her passing. She specifically asked that all the money given to the school district is to go to pay-to-play funding. Say that right? Yes. For kids to play sports. So that currently, that balance, a little over $68,000, that's where we'll start the year. That's the money available at the district.
So what are you using it for? We don't pay to play here, so they can, $10 grand.
So, I know the high school has been utilizing some of the funding because we don't really have pay to play. If a team can pass all of their drug testing, then they get an incentive from this fund to go towards their program. But it has to be 100%.
Do they use it for equipment for kids too? Like if a kid can't afford football cleats or something?
I've seen it used for that too. We purchased some shoes, some cleats, things like that. So, and I know Mr. Murray and I believe saying names, but I know there is a committee being formed that helps in those funds. So, but that's kept separate from the general fund because she had a very specific purpose of what she wants those funds to be used for.
You had another question?
No, I just was curious, like sometimes these kids have to raise money. If you guys are aware that some kids gonna not be able to do that, we need to pull out.
And that's exactly where we take it from. But we don't use it to augment, like, if basketball needs 5,000, it's like, no, that's general, like, this is just for kids.
It's for kids to need it.
On page 48, we have one staff member that applies every year for this grant and usually receives it, and it helps with wages. And so that's a grant specifically is all wages. And I just adjusted it last year, I thought, or the current year we're in, I thought it would be about 7,000, but it actually ended up being about 82,000. It is state funded. 8,200, did I say 1,000? Wow, I'm applying for that grant. I'm sorry, I added a 0. So I'm just keeping it what it actually was this year. I'm projecting that for next year. And if it's not something that he applies for, we won't even obviously use that money at all because we won't get it. On page 50, this is our CTE Pathways funding that we received from the state. It's broken out by business, ag, and nursing is how we receive those funds. And each teacher or advisor over those programs, they have to submit their budget narrative to the state for approval. And so I haven't heard anyone kicking and screaming that they're changing a bunch next year, so I just left the budget the same as this year. And hoping that doesn't get reduced. Fund 52, or page 52 is our scholarship fund. This is where we house our board scholarship in this account. We have a food service scholarship that the food service program created. They fundraise and award to a senior. And then also, if you remember a few years back, we received funds from Clarice Orr for a scholarship. And there's a lot of things with that. There are $5,000 scholarships, one a year to a graduating senior. And so that's why when I say, yes, we have $5,000 for board scholarships, but the total is a lot more than that. It's because of the Clarice Orr scholarship. After that, you get into, on page 55, IDEA Part B, Section 611. This is federal funding to support our special education particular budget. This funds 6 full-time FTE instructional assistants on campus. So it's just salaries and payroll costs. And then on page 57, we get a little small grant, IDEA Part B, Section 619. This focuses on ages 0 to 5. Can only be spent on students that are 0 to 5. And I just budget $2,500. It fluctuates sometimes, but I think that might be where it comes in if we get it at all. Page 59, this is my favorite fund. This is I don't have to go to the board every other month and ask for permission to change the budget because we got a grant that a teacher applied for and I got to now put it in our financials. So this is our miscellaneous grants. I can't tell you what it might be or might not be. We might get something, we might not. But this is was added into the budget a couple of years ago. Pretty much that prevents me from having to go ask the board, can I please adjust our budget by $1,500 because I didn't account for it in the budget and a teacher applied and we got the money. So it's not guaranteed revenue and I won't touch that money if we don't need to. It's only money that we receive that's not in the budget. On page 61, the SIA, also known as the Student Investment Act, this is money that Ryan talked about in his superintendent message. I think it was a little over $2 billion was allocated statewide over the biennium. Our portion of it will be almost $1.6 million next year, almost. With this, we've had to do a lot of engagement with staff, community, everyone, on how to spend this money. We report to the board all the time on this money. It's fun. But with our funds, we have basically the majority of it goes to payroll. This is where we are paying counselors out of, our nurse that we hired and added to our district a couple of years ago, a CTE teacher, pay for some elementary school teachers out of this, our student data, student information, student data specialist is paid for that funding, and our district counselor.
How many people in total are
I think we pay about 9 FTE from that grant. And it is not something that I see, or I don't anticipate it going away. Hopefully.
Just, based on the economy, right?
Yep.
It's that corporate tax, so.
On page 66, Fund 257 is our Title I C migrant summer school funding. That is what I've zeroed that out because that's now being accounted for in Fund 208. Page 68, the state has introduced an early literacy grant that the district receives. Next year it's going to be just a little over $132,000. What the district has decided to use these funds for is an FTE teacher and an instructional assistant. These funds have specific use. You can't use them for anything. It has to specifically go to early literacy learning, kindergarten to 3rd grade. That's the only thing we can use those funds for. So that's what we've chosen to use those funds for in this budget. Page 70. Guess years back, there was a Measure 99 passed, it's called the Outdoor School Break. That's what our budget is called, but people know it as the 5th grade field trip. And I should just write that in our budget because that's how we all know it. But so this year, it's based on how many students attend. It's basically how you get the funding. This year, I think we're a little over 70,000 we spent, and I don't anticipate a larger class next year than this year, so I just increased it to what we spent this year. And it's a really good program, and I know like it's really like going on it, so. Page 72. Yeah.
We used to
Yeah.
collect pop cans on the beach.
And now they're all in charge of us.
Yeah.
I know.
TV.
And TVs and bathrooms,
Yeah.
what the heck? Page 72 is our high school success fund. In Ryan's budget narrative, I think he called it HSS, which probably no one knew, but that's what this money is. This is state funds that come in. Got our estimated allocation, will just be a little over 339,000 next year. Pays for a little bit of an administrator in the high school, just a little bit, half an instructional assistant, part of a CTE teacher, and one FTE college and career specialist. Focuses on, you know a lot about it, that money.
Yeah, so that money, it's separate, right? High School Success Act, we're using it for cracking out the absenteeism. That's where part of the administrator comes in, that's part of the job. The high school graduation specialist, that's that person who really helps fill out fast. So it's talking about kids' PEP plans or personal education plans. So that pathway through high school for success and then to college. And so that person's job is to do just that and track kids' grades. We've seen, since we put in this person, we've seen our graduation rates skyrocket. And this year it's actually getting even better. And so we're seeing really good outcomes. Yes.
So it's not just migrant anymore, it's just, this is.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's for everybody.
Is it part of the basic school support fund or is it separate?
It's separate from that. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
So that's what that budget.
Right.
Um,
But it's still state? It's still
yeah,
state.
it's absolutely.
It's state funds. On page 74. Let's see. Support to small rural schools. This is a grant that we've received in the past. Then we didn't get it, and then we got it, and then we didn't get it. I'm not budgeting for it next year. I think we've surpassed the small school. Now that we've added our virtual school, and I don't think we'll receive those funds. On page 76, a couple of years ago, the board asked that we put aside some money for PERS because it's a crazy program, and so we've dedicated $500,000 in this account. It's our, we call it our PERS reserve. I feel like it's our emergency PERS money if we need it. I have not added to it. The board really hasn't talked about adding to it, so I've just kept it at $500,000 right there.
So we used it one year.
We did the year 22, 23, 24, that's when we added it. Before, we didn't have, yeah, that was, so prior to 23, 24, this wasn't something that was in our budget. Page 78, that's that SMILE program through OSU that we run on campus. The 7,800, that's been our contract with OSU. They've given us to help run the program. Unfortunately, the program costs a lot more than that, but I feel like we're really invested in it. It's a good program, so we keep budgeting for it. And so it's basically extra duty contracts for the advisors. We have 2 per school, so 6 overall. And then there's payroll costs associated with that. They also, per the contract with OSU, we have to provide a consumable budget for them to do projects. And I think they meet once a week, every single week, do experiments, things like that. So we give them each building $400, and we give them a little bit of travel money. They do go on some field trips every once in a while. So that's what is facing the budget. On page 81, we're to our bus replacement fund. This is just based off of Mr. Hopkins' 5-year projection that he has on a Google sheet. I'm just trying to build our funds so we have money to purchase a bus when we need to purchase a bus. I believe the last bus we purchased was $225,000.
And that will be the next one. That's why we're skipping a year. So in our fund, right, we build that fund up. And so we On a travel bus, which is our largest bus, right, that's why we usually skip a year, get 2 years of investment in there, so that you'll see that. So bus 10, which was our old bus, is now out of commission. And then so next year we'll order it, starting, actually we'll probably order it in July, but it won't be here until the year after that, so it'll be the 2027 budget, and so you'll see that. But
It takes that long for us to get.
yeah, and especially with new emissions, and new legislation and those kind of things, it's that
It's not gonna be electric.
it is not, we do not have the infrastructure to support an electric.
I will say, we did look into it though.
Yes, we did.
Stop.
It's not a good idea.
Yeah,
Board money? No.
yeah.
Um,
We have up to 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm moving to church back up, so.
Okay, so that's bus replacement fund, then we move on to page 83. This is a new fund this year, so you'll see all zeros in all the other columns. This is the total replacement fund. When I started talking about general fund revenue and reducing admissions, and I said that you're gonna see that $5,000 later, you're gonna see it right here on page 83. I'm hoping we can gain at least $5,000 off of entry, football games, soccer games, things like that. And then there's that $50,000 transfer that will start for the next 10 years out. And then in addition, you're gonna see interest on investments and be like, what's that? Well, that's our money that goes into that local government investment pool, that our LGIP, that gets interest. And so I break that out within the budget, and some of that interest goes to the general fund. We put some of it to the bus replacement fund, to the church fund, and to our fund 440. So we're just spreading that interest that we gain off that account over 4 different accounts. So I'm hoping we can gain maybe $10,000 with the interest and put it in the church fund. On page 85, so we have different accounting software for our student body books. It's ran in a totally different program, however, I have to reflect it in our financials. So basically, our student body account, all 3 schools, we run about a little over $300,000 of money. So that's just what this is. This is saying our student body money is about $350,000. And then we come to page 87, which is our food service program. Let's see, you'll see that internal transfer kind of closer to the bottom of that 72,000 that I talked about at the end of the year. That's going to help get them out of in the red that they will be in, or get the red. I'm not anticipating the state increasing anything. It's basically all of our money comes from the feds through this program, a chunk of it, over $1 million. So hoping that doesn't go away. But we do pay 11 FTE out of this fund to run our food service program. Our biggest expense is payroll and food costs.
We're actually budgeting less next year than what we have this year.
Yes, and that is because, hold on, look, I think we've had some change in some personnel. People have left. When we talked earlier, it's so hard to not say names, but when we talked earlier about PERS and versus officer, if you lose somebody that was a tier 1 that's more expensive and hire someone that's cheaper, we still have the labor, but it's less expensive. I shouldn't say cheaper, it's less expensive. Does that answer your question?
Well, kind of, because even the food itself remains the same.
Yeah, you know,
Surely food costs have to go up.
I spoke with the director of the program, but she doesn't think that we're gonna hit our current budget right now. We won't go over, and so she didn't feel it necessary for me to increase that next year, because she's not gonna hit that 425 we have budgeted right now. So we're not gonna inflate it. If we're not gonna spend it, we don't need to increase it.
Well, Ryan and I have talked some about Obama meals causing problems with,
Yeah.
maybe the meals aren't as healthy as they could be. Is this something we should be or could be supplementing to increase that quality or content?
I think we had a really good cookie that increased the quality.
Yeah, so this is something that we, like we talked about. is-
Yes, we did.
Where have I
But
been?
Freddie's gone.
I don't know. No, that's something we talked about, investing is different, and I think services to more home cooked, less prepackaged foods. I think we can absolutely do that, but I think that, that would be kind of a future date for priorities.
I feel like the challenge comes in with there's so many, our hands are tied to that program, there's so many restrictions that if you start going outside of that, then we're not eligible for those reimbursable meals. And then we might shoot ourselves in the foot there, so I think it's, I don't know, but who knows where this will be in a year, I don't know.
So we just still hoping for a review of those regulations.
That would be
So we
preferred,
need to
but
make it
yeah,
a board priority to
yeah.
invest in home cooked.
And we could do it. Anyway, and I met with food service, both the director and the kitchen manager about that, and saying, let's dream what would that look like, while still staying within the regulations, and offering more. Because I do know that high school offers more options for them. I mean, even sandwiches, those make a difference. And anyway, so we're exploring those options as we go.
So just to clarify, go ahead. Go ahead, you go first.
Well, I'm thinking about some of these unknown revenues. We're not gonna find out right away.
Right.
And it could end up being, okay, you don't have it for a year, but you might get it next year.
Right.
You know. So my question then is, can you use contingency out of the general fund to help them?
With action from the board,
With action from the board.
directing me to be able to do
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
And that was kind of,
That's plan
when we talked about our plan A to Z, that's in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because honestly, that would, I feel the board would think that is absolutely
Oh,
what we would need to do.
It's
if
so
this
essential
goes
for
away.
kids. I mean, it's like, how do you not do that?
That's why we have that contingency.
Yes.
That's exactly.
Thank you.
This is the contingency.
Okay.
Yep. Any more questions? Did you have a question?
I did, but it pretty much answered it.
Okay.
It's like, they're just like, he's pretty strong, but he says, sign the paper, sign the paper, he's not gonna let it give it to him, like, something happens, like, he's showing us.
And yeah, there are states that are feeling that right now.
Yeah, so if you're gonna do, I just wanna make sure we have an idea where we're going.
We have a contingency.
We're,
Good. Okay, we're almost done, guys. Page 89, this is our debt service fund. And so we, if you don't know, we have a bond, took out a bond to build a new middle school. And so all this money that goes into this account can only be used for our payment on our bond. Next year, our payment that we're gonna owe is $475,000. And if you listen to me at the board meetings,
How much do we owe them?
off the top of my head, I don't remember. It will be paid off in 2036. So you're closer. We're almost halfway there.
probably two, your goal is one, right? So you get four, we take four, so it's probably two.
I'll find out. It's going to speak, but I'll find out and I'll give you that number. Okay, and then on page 91, we have our final fund, which is our Fund 440, our Facilities Management Fund. On page 91, you're gonna see that $3 million transferred from the general fund. We're transferring it over here to invest in our buildings. We're also gonna have a beginning fund balance from our current budget that we have now. We're also gonna get some interest, hopefully, off of our LGIP account. And so basically, I'm hoping, and I'm very confident that we'll have a little over $6 million in that account. And so page 93 and page 94, I always include this just so the committee can see. Our page 93 is resources, that's our revenue, total revenue, and then page 94 is our expenditures. I just want you to see that those two numbers match. $48,288,783.95 balanced budget.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Not this time.
Another budget issue.
Thank you.
That was
$3.8654 to every $1,000 levied. And so that isn't a number that we can change.
Does the county set our permanent rate?
This county, it's been set since I got here. We didn't like my comment there. I will find out
Yeah.
who said it, I don't know.
I don't.
But it's
I
our
don't- I
permanent
don't care-
rate.
I
It
don't-
can't change unless.
I don't care who said it, I just thought if that was a recent thing, that's.
No, it's not recent.
The board would have. to
It's been
say.
forever and ever and ever and ever.
Okay,
permanent.
yeah.
So, never been in a position where we've ever changed it. It's permanent. I don't think we're looking for a rate increase it or anything,
Yeah, there's nothing that the budget committee can do about that.
but it is something to talk about.
Feels good. I have an hour.
No. I think that's it.
Okay.
I guess, yeah. Questions?
If there are any questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the budget. And that would mean that this would be our final meeting, correct?
Yes.
So, having said that, would someone like to make that motion? Okay,
I will second.
okay. Been moved that we approve, seconded by Pat that we approve it. All in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? By the same sign.
Did Rose vote? Yeah.
Christine, stay on in time.
Delay just. I did, you guys did excellent
I think you did an outstanding job.
Yes.
Really appreciate this, Crystal. This is,
You're welcome.
I'm thinking, how does she put all of that up there, without an AI? That's amazing. You just
Well,
did amazing.
I will say, Brian's been very, very helpful. It's nice to have some good support, and it's not just like a week thing. I was telling, I can't remember who I was telling, Stephanie, I start in December, like this is how early. And so by today's date, I'm ready for it to be done. And it's, of course, a budget, so it's not gonna be perfect, but I really feel like we're
Okay.
good.
And I'm assuming that anyone who has questions after this meeting, you're available,
Yep.
Ryan's available.
Yep.
Don't hesitate to ask. I've worked in a lot of school districts and I've been around in the last 5 years helping people, and we really have a lot going for us here, and our kids are benefiting in so many ways. I've got 5 grandchildren in this school district. They all have great stories. It's because of all of you. So, thank you. Having said that,
Thank you, guys. It's
Yes.
a lot of work,
Thank
and
you.
I was nervous if 8 people would show up tonight. So,
did Bunker call you, by the way?
He texted me
He
and
didn't text me.
said he was gonna be out of town, and I said, well,
Okay, he
you're
owes
not
me.
gonna ask me those questions yet.
Okay,